on that, on carnal inscriptions, Spanish American narratives of corporeal difference and disability. And she also co-edited a volume entitled Digital Media, Cultural Production and Speculative Capitalism, which came out with Routledge in 2011. And her current book project is on eugenics, disability and aesthetic, again on 20th and 21st century Mexico. And also she has held a Jackman Humanities Institute Fellowship, and she's actually just recently done some research on this topic that she's actually working on now. So she's kind of thinking with us in a way. And the title of her talk today is written on the skin. It's written on that, the prose of statistics in post-revolutionary Mexico. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Valentina, for inviting me, and thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I know it's always busy in the middle of the week. I do have some large print copies of the talk. It's just in draft form. Because I work in disability studies, we usually like to circulate large print copies, so if that's helpful to anyone who wanted to follow along, please do.
Right. No, okay. Oh yes, I'm going to.
Yeah, you can pass it around, and if anyone would like it, don't be shy.
Yes.
Great. So I just want to say a few things to contextualize the project a little bit before I delve into the actual presentation. As Valentina said, I've been doing some research in Mexico, and part of what I'll be presenting today is based on some of that research. This is also a portion of my book and project, which is titled Eugenics and Intercorporeality, Reading Disability in 20th Century Mexican Cultural Production. And so I'm interested in disability and eugenics, especially in the context of the first decades of the post-revolutionary period. From the perspective of disability studies specifically, and what that means in kind of a shorthand way of putting it is that I'm interested in the ways that ideas about normal and abnormal bodies, ideal, undesirable bodies get produced in that context, and what that might mean for us as readers as we interpret the production of those ideas about bodies. The project does include some archival work in Mexico, and specifically some of the documents that we'll be looking at come from the Secretaría de Educación Pública, or Ministry of Public Education. And specifically, I've been looking at a sub-department within that ministry, which is the Department of Psychopedagogy and Hygiene, within which José Gómez Robleda worked for quite a number of years and was an important figure within that. There's also some research from the Department of Public Health, but it's interesting sometimes the way in which public education and public health come together and intersect, because so much of the work of psychopedagogy and hygiene is on monitoring and measuring and testing school children, both for their academic ability and for their health or different conditions, right? So as far as Gómez Robleda himself, he's kind of an unusual figure, and one that maybe many of us might not have heard of. You may have come across him simply because he was actually one of the psychiatrists that was responsible for evaluating the mental state of the alleged assassin of Leon Trotsky. So that's kind of one of his more famous moments, right? But in his career, he did many other things. He's a forensic psychiatrist, which essentially means working kind of in this junction between law and psychiatry, and often evaluating the mental state of alleged criminals. That was a major area of his interest. But within the Department of Psychopedagogy and Hygiene, he did a lot of work in classification and tools for measuring school children in different capacities. But beyond that, he also worked through the UNAM, the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, on different initiatives to also study and measure indigenous groups through the discipline of biotypology.